All right, everyone, get ready because today we are diving deep into something that tends to make people nervous.
Yeah?
Mercury retrograde.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Good.
We are not going to talk about all the doom and gloom you usually hear.
Right.
We're going to explore a completely different perspective.
Interesting.
One that looks at this as a time of real magic and growth.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. And our source material today is Mercury Retrograde Magic,
Mm-hmm.
which encourages us to actually embrace this energy instead of being afraid of it.
Okay.
But before we get into all the magical stuff,
Right.
can you give us a quick explanation of what Mercury retrograde actually is?
Well, basically, it's an optical illusion.
Okay.
From here on Earth, it looks like Mercury is moving backward
Uh-huh.
during certain times of the year, but it's not actually changing direction.
Oh.
It just looks that way
Huh.
because of where Earth and Mercury are in their orbits.
Okay, so it's like when you're on a train
Right.
and another train passes you, it looks like you're moving backward even though you're not.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of where the symbolic meaning of Mercury retrograde comes in.
Oh, interesting.
Astrologers see it as a time for going inward,
Mm-hmm.
not outward action.
Okay.
It's all about reflecting and reevaluating, not necessarily starting new things.
So instead of frantically trying to push forward,
Right.
we should slow down and kind of look inward.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And this book suggests that instead of fearing breakdowns during Mercury retrograde, we can use that energy.
Oh.
It's a perfect chance to revisit old ideas,
Mm-hmm.
relationships, projects that need attention.
Okay, I'm already interested. So how do we go from being afraid of Mercury retrograde
Mhm.
to actually using it for magic? What does the book say?
The key practice they talk about is reflection and review.
Okay.
But it's not just thinking about things. It's actively meditating and journaling to really dive deep into unresolved issues.
Mm.
And, those emotional blocks. We all have that feeling of unfinished business.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Or those patterns that keep repeating in our lives.
Yes, exactly. And Mercury retrograde can be the energy that finally helps you address them.
Interesting.
It says it's a good time for spells to heal past relationships,
Okay.
even cleansing rituals,
Mm.
using herbs to get rid of that stagnant energy.
Herbs, spells. I'm liking this less intimidated and more curious. Are there specific herbs they mention?
Definitely sage to clear negative energy,
Mm-hmm.
lavender if you're feeling anxious, because it's calming, and rosemary.
Okay.
It's known to enhance memory and clarity. It's
Interesting.
really helpful when things feel a bit foggy.
Like a Mercury retrograde survival kit. So besides cleansing and reflection, any other magic practices?
The book suggests it's the best time to dust off old projects you've neglected, that half-written novel,
Oh.
the art project sitting in the corner, that business plan. Now's the time to look at them with fresh eyes.
So we're talking reviving, not starting anything brand new.
Exactly. It's all about going back and reassessing,
Got it.
not really about charging ahead into something new. It's like looking again at something you started, but maybe stopped for a reason.
Like Mercury retrograde is saying it's okay to finally work on those dreams.
Yeah.
What about relationships? We mentioned spells, but anything else for healing old wounds during this time?
They talk about shadow work, basically exploring the hidden parts of ourselves that we tend to avoid.
Ooh, that sounds intense but necessary.
Yeah.
So holding on to grudges, replaying hurts, letting fear control us, all that not so pretty stuff.
Exactly. And Mercury retrograde helps us gently explore and integrate those parts of ourselves.
Ah.
They even talk about ritual baths with herbs like rose and chamomile to heal the emotional body.
Ritual baths with herbs sound amazing, especially during this time.
Yeah.
Any specific benefits?
Rose helps process grief and heartbreak.
Okay.
Chamomile is calming, reduces anxiety, which can be a lot with all the Mercury retrograde talk.
Right.
And peppermint helps with mental clarity and focus.
That sounds so refreshing. Okay, this is giving me a whole new view on self-care.
Exactly. And they mentioned forgiveness spells,
Yeah.
like writing a letter you never send and cord-cutting rituals to release unhealthy ties.
This is all so powerful. I feel way more empowered about Mercury retrograde.
That's the goal.
Yes.
Remember, it's not about fearing this energy. It's learning to work with it.
I'm ready to learn more, but what about communication?
Yeah.
I mean, Mercury's the planet of communication, but this is known for miscommunications, delays, tech issues.
Right.
How does that fit with all this magical potential?
It's a good question, and they address that in the book.
Oh, okay.
They suggest seeing those breakdowns as chances to refine how we communicate.
Oh.
Maybe it's forcing us to slow down.
Yeah.
Listen, Better choose our words more carefully.
Instead of getting annoyed, we can see it as a way to become more mindful communicator.
Exactly. And they highlight divination practices like tarot readings and pendulum work.
Oh, interesting.
Can be super insightful during Mercury retrograde.
Okay, so we're going from fear
Yeah.
to wanting to use tarot and pendulums. Tell me more.
We'll definitely get into that. But first, we need to touch upon protection.
Protection, you mean, from all the communication and tech problems,
Exactly. Because this time can bring chaos.
right?
It's a great time to strengthen our energetic defenses.
Okay.
It talks about creating a shield against misunderstandings, tech issues, negative energy.
Okay, tell me everything. What do they recommend?
Shielding rituals, protective crystals like black tourmaline to absorb negative energy, obsidian for grounding, and amethyst for peace and clarity.
This is amazing. We're totally reframing Mercury retrograde.
Yeah.
Instead of hiding, we're learning to use its energy.
Exactly.
I'm ready to learn more.
There's so much more to explore.
All right, let's dive in. Okay, I'm still thinking about all that talk of herbs and crystals and ritual baths.
Yeah.
But let's get back to that divination piece.
Right.
I want to hear more about how we can use tarot and pendulums during Mercury retrograde.
So it's really interesting how these tools can help us with intuition,
Yeah.
especially when Mercury, the planet of communication, is kind of working against us.
Right, like our usual ways of thinking and talking might be a bit off.
Yeah. So we need to find another way to figure things out.
Exactly, and the book emphasizes this as a perfect time for using these divination tools
Okay.
to get clarity on things that feel confusing or uncertain.
So let's say I'm feeling stuck in my job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know whether to stay or find something new. Could tarot help?
Absolutely, it could.
Okay.
The source suggests specific tarot spreads for Mercury retrograde
Oh, interesting.
that focus on reflecting on past patterns
Okay.
that might be affecting your current situation. You could ask questions like, what past experiences are affecting my career choices?
Okay.
Or what lessons am I supposed to learn from this job?
So it's not really about getting a yes or no.
Yeah,
It's more about understanding things better.
exactly. Tarot can shine a light on those blind spots and
Ah.
hidden patterns, especially when things from the past come up, which
Yeah.
can feel overwhelming if we're not paying attention.
That makes sense. What about pendulums?
Pendulums are great for yes or no answers.
Okay.
So if you need to make a decision and you just don't know which way to go,
A pendulum can help you connect with your intuition and get an answer.
like a direct line to our inner wisdom.
Exactly.
And probably really helpful when our logical mind is all jumbled during Mercury retrograde.
Exactly. It's about quieting the mental noise and getting to a deeper knowing.
Speaking of deeper knowing, the source mentioned dream work, right?
Yeah.
My dreams get super vivid during Mercury retrograde.
They do mention that in Mercury Retrograde Magic.
Okay.
Dreams can be so powerful for insights, especially now. It suggests paying attention to recurring themes, symbols, or messages in your dreams.
Interesting.
It's like our subconscious is trying to talk to us directly.
I like that. So if we're trying to heal old wounds during Mercury retrograde,
Yeah.
our dreams might show us patterns or issues we need to deal with.
Absolutely. They might even give you guidance on how to move forward
Wow.
or offer a new perspective on something that's been bothering you.
So we have tarot for reflection and insight,
Yeah.
pendulums for decisions, and dream work for deeper awareness. I'm seeing how these practices can really help during Mercury retrograde.
Exactly. They all point to something really important.
Okay.
Slowing down and tuning in.
Mm-hmm.
We're so busy and connected that we forget to listen to that inner voice.
Right.
But Mercury retrograde disrupts our routines and makes us pause.
Like the universe hitting the brakes saying, hey, pay attention.
Exactly.
There's something here you need to see.
And in that stillness, we can find wisdom and clarity.
That reminds me of something I learned about called Wu Wei.
Oh, yeah?
It's a Taoist principle that means non-action or effortless action.
Interesting.
It's about going with the flow of the universe and letting go of control.
That's a perfect connection.
Right.
It seems like a great practice for Mercury retrograde
Yeah.
when we're dealing with those frustrating delays that make us resist.
What if instead of freaking out about a missed flight or a broken computer, we just surrender?
Yeah.
Trust there's a reason and maybe find a better outcome.
Like riding the wave instead of getting crushed by it.
Yes, and I think surrender is a big part of Mercury retrograde magic.
Definitely.
It's not about fighting this energy, it's about flowing with it, trusting it's leading us to something good.
I totally agree.
Hmm.
It's realizing we're not always in control.
Yeah.
And sometimes the best thing to do is just surrender.
Which is hard for those of us who like to be in charge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
but Mercury retrograde teaches us surrender and flexibility.
Okay, so we've talked about divination, dream work, surrender,
Right.
but what about everyday stuff, like the idea that you shouldn't sign contracts or buy big things during Mercury retrograde?
Yeah.
Does the source talk about that?
It doesn't get into specifics, but it does say to be careful with communication
Okay.
and double-checking details, especially with agreements, commitments, or transactions.
So it's not about avoiding them, it's more about being careful,
Exactly.
taking your time, making sure everyone's on the same page.
And that goes for communication in general.
Right.
Mercury retrograde is known for misunderstandings, lost emails. It's a good time to pause before you hit send, read things carefully, and make sure your message is clear.
Like Mercury retrograde is saying, slow down, pay attention.
Yeah.
Don't miss the details.
And in a world that's always rushing us, that's a good lesson.
Speaking of things we might miss, what about gifts?
Mm-hmm.
Some people think it's bad luck to give or receive gifts during Mercury retrograde.
Right.
What's the book's take?
It doesn't mention gifts directly,
Okay.
but it does say to be mindful of your intentions and the potential for miscommunication.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're giving a gift, be really clear about what you mean
Okay.
and make sure the person understands.
So maybe avoid those gifts that could be misunderstood.
Yeah,
Or something really expensive that might feel like an obligation.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
about being aware of how things come across,
Right.
especially now when communication can be tricky.
And when receiving a gift, it's a good reminder to be gracious,
Yeah,
but also trust your gut if it feels off.
absolutely. Use your judgment. And remember, Mercury retrograde is a time for heightened awareness.
Oh, okay. I feel so much more prepared to handle Mercury retrograde now.
Good.
But one more thing. What about the benefits? We've talked a lot about challenges,
Mm-hmm.
but are there any positives?
That's a great question and something we'll talk more about in the final part.
Perfect. Can't wait. All right. So we're back.
Yes, we are.
Ready to wrap up our deep dive into Mercury retrograde magic.
Sounds good.
You know, as we've been talking about all this,
Mm-hmm.
one thing keeps coming back to me, this idea of surrender.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
It seems like a lot of the advice we've talked about, at least from the magical perspective,
Right.
is about letting go of trying to control things,
Okay.
accepting the unexpected, and trusting that there's a plan even if we don't see it.
I see what you mean. So instead of forcing things to happen,
Yeah.
we're going with the flow, which during Mercury retrograde is about slowing down, reflecting, and revisiting.
Exactly. It's like Mercury retrograde is reminding us to pause, breathe, and just let things happen.
And maybe in that surrender, we find new opportunities
Yes.
or insights that we wouldn't have seen if we were holding on to our old plans.
That's a great point because we're so used to resisting change
Right.
or trying to make things go our way.
Yeah.
What if Mercury retrograde is actually saying, let go of that and trust the universe?
That's a really interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's humbling to admit we're not always in control.
It is humbling, but it's also freeing
Right.
because when we let go of needing to control everything, so many possibilities open up.
The book talks about that turning a negative into a positive for growth and change.
Yeah, instead of dreading the disruptions, what if we see them as chances to change course?
Mm-hmm.
Like if a project fails during Mercury retrograde, maybe it wasn't meant to be,
Okay.
and it's making space for something better.
That makes sense. And it goes with the retrograde energy of revisiting and reassessing.
Right.
It's a time to ask, is this still good for me? Does this match my goals? And if not, maybe Mercury retrograde helps us let go and make space for something new or something old that makes more sense now.
It's like a cosmic do-over.
I like to have a chance to rewrite our stories
Yeah.
and make a future that's more true to ourselves.
Okay, as we finish up this deep dive, what are some key things we want listeners to remember about Mercury retrograde magic?
Well, I think the most important thing is that this time that everyone fears can actually be really powerful for growth, insight, and even magic.
It's about changing our view from fear to feeling empowered.
Exactly. And knowing that we decide how we deal with this energy.
Instead of seeing it as a time of setbacks, we can see it as a time of opportunity to reflect, review, and renew.
It's about looking inward,
Yeah.
connecting with ourselves and listening to our intuition.
And remembering that even when things feel chaotic, there's magic to be found.
That's beautiful. So for everyone listening, approach the next Mercury retrograde with curiosity and openness.
Yeah, embrace the unexpected, try those reflective practices, and see what happens.
And remember, Mercury retrograde isn't about hiding. It's about stepping into your power, trusting your wisdom, and creating the life you want.
What if instead of a setback, it's actually a cosmic reset button, helping us reach our full potential?
That's a great thought to leave everyone with. Thanks for listening. And until next time, Keep diving deep.